I didn't prepare any notes for what I wanted to say this morning. I've mostly just been wanting to digest it, what happened yesterday. And I don't want to be dramatic about it. I don't like dramatic people. And I don't think it's really helpful or appropriate or even smart to speak to other people's motives or character or what's going on inside them. And so you guys know me, and you've chosen to support my work, a lot of you, and thank you for that. And I think it's because you know that there needs to be somebody engaging a lot of this stuff that is not inflammatory, but helps educate people so they can make good decisions and just shine a light on dark things. And so that's what nobody elected me to do this for the United Methodist Church and then the Global Methodist Church. And it's not, I've also talked about the Nazarenes. I've talked about the Roman Catholic Church. I hope to eventually talk about other Wesleyan denominations a lot more. But within my own tribe, the way that my integrity has been on the line for a long time is whenever screwy things are happening in the GMC, am I going to be as willing to talk about it as when screwy things happen in the UMC? And the short answer to that question is no. I'm much more reluctant to talk about any dysfunction or weirdness in the GMC than the UMC because it's my tribe, and I don't want to poison the waters I'm swimming in, and I don't want to make enemies out of people that would be colleagues. So I'm reluctant to do that, but I still feel like my integrity is on the line whenever I see signs that my denomination, my chosen denomination, is choosing to reproduce a lot of the things that I didn't like about the United Methodist Church, namely a lack of transparency, people behind closed doors figuring out things of great import to the denomination. The United Methodist Church, there were just a lot of people who liked doing things behind the scenes, whether they were bishops or general boards and agency staff. And then a lot of what happened at the general conference level when everybody was assembled was a farce because the deck had already been stacked. And so I haven't liked that there are groups meeting in the GMC that people don't know about, and we don't learn about the work that they're doing until it's already over. I haven't liked that. There have been a number of task forces doing that whenever I've learned about and spoken about, I've been corrected for that. And I want to be fair. Nobody has ever threatened my job or, come at me in a nasty way, but it's just been made known to me that it's really not appreciated that I've let people know about groups meeting and things being talked about. And I should acknowledge, a lot of that is because there are some really nasty people in the GMC who write different people in leadership and accuse them of all kinds of moral failings and threaten them about certain decisions. And so if they don't learn that these things are happening, then they don't have any reason to write and be mean. So I do understand GMC staff and leadership not just wanting to air broadly anything about the episcopacy, because a lot of people are very anxious about bishops in the Global Methodist Church. So far as a lot of people are concerned, and this is what I talked about yesterday, there have been several chapters in the story of Methodists blaming all of Methodist dysfunction on the bishops, And to a degree that might be fair because the buck stops at the top, and so if there's dysfunction, go ahead and blame the bishops. But I've been in a different place. I think the problems are generally with culture and some with structure. So I in particular, I've advocated for 3 cultural values: accountability, transparency, and vulnerability. You have these 3 things. I think the structure doesn't really matter. I think the structure has to work because the people will not tolerate corruption and people serving themselves in positions of authority in the church. So that's the thing that I'm behind. I'm of the mind that in order to be a biblical church, you have to have bishops. But even so, I think if we are going to have bishops, we need absolute transparency, not just once they're bishops, but in the process leading up to selecting bishops. And so I was glad when they released the names of the 9 candidates for being voted for 2-year bishops that'll be considered in a couple months. They had the contact information for a lot of them on there. So I reached out to them directly and invited them all to do interviews. And then, as I talked about publicly yesterday, one person immediately said yes. And then I haven't heard from him since. If he still says yes, then I'll go forward with it. But then I heard from a few with polite declines, and then one with just an angry face emoji. And I wrote back, "Did you mean to send me an angry face emoji?" And he hasn't responded. So I'm pretty sure it was an intentional thing. I'm not going to say who it is yet. I still want to confirm it. But to my mind, I'm just going, there is someone being considered for bishop who is at that level of emotional maturity. Your response is an emoji. That's crazy to me. And then another was brusque, and I'd already been under the impression that he wasn't happy with me, so that kind of confirmed it. But then the last one, actually I heard back from another after that just saying, "I see that you saw it, can't talk to you." But the one that I finally made my post about said basically, "We've heard from the communications department of the denomination. They've told us not to talk to anybody, but to refer you to them. So here's the email address." And, nobody said, "Why haven't you contacted them?" But the thing is, I'm an elder in the Global Methodist Church, and on a very basic level, I think it's inappropriate to be told you can't talk to other elders in the connection. And I don't think it's appropriate. I mean, part of me, Rob Renfro wrote a public corrective to the United Methodist Church and how paternalistic it was and how it didn't trust people to make their own decisions, and that they would intervene and control the terms on which people could get information and act on information, and just how insulting that is. And I was of the mind that it's insulting in the United Methodist Church, and I'm of the mind that it's insulting in the Global Methodist Church. I think we have to all be adults, and that means that we have to be entrusted to operate with whatever information we think we need. I think that's why a lot of people have appreciated Plain Spoken. It's because I ask a lot of the questions that people care about. I don't do the corporate talk where everybody comes off looking squeaky clean. I have disagreements with guests while still being respectful. I line out the different schools of thought in the GMC, and I try and help people anticipate where the lines of potential divisions are and the kind of conversations we need to have right now. That's what I wanted to offer, and seeking the permission of someone else as a middleman seems fundamentally inappropriate to me. Yesterday, I didn't say anyone was responsible, anybody had bad. In fact, I don't think anybody has bad intentions here. I think we have a fundamental disagreement about how the GMC needs to be run in order to earn and maintain the trust of the people who tithe and give to these institutions. I think we have a fundamental disagreement about how it is that episcopal candidates should be made available to the people that they will hold authority over. They are going to hold authority over us. The main pushback that I got was that if I were to provide this venue, that it would result in politicking or campaigning, which I also found insulting because I've got a reputation. I've been doing this work for 1.5 years. I don't allow people to do that on my platform. I make most everybody look good, but also we talk about substantial things that result in people being clear about if they are in alignment with the person I'm talking to. It's a regular thing that I get done with a nice interview, but people say, "Ooh, I see things here that I'm concerned about and I don't agree with." Even in my conversations with other high-ranking GMC people, we've made clear where we see things differently. So to imagine that it would just be some kind of schmaltzy corporate, or that I'd be like picking favorites, that also is just like insulting my character. It's also just kind of silly because no matter what gets done, the only way to keep it like random and fair would be to like have like the dating game and like change their voice. I don't even know. It would be so silly. There is no way Some of them already coming into it have name brand recognition, and people know their faces and names. They already have an advantage over others. A lot of them are active on social media, and they're posting about the fact that they're running for bishop, and they are automatically getting more play than the others. There's no way to do things absolutely equally. There's just letting people be seen, and the question is it going to be the institution showing them, or are they going to make themselves available to people like me and other podcasters and people that can ask the questions that are important to them? And so it makes no sense to me, really. I mean, I just don't think it makes any sense to say, oh, yes, it's completely appropriate that the only ways that they make themselves known to the body are through GMC intermediaries. That to me looks exactly like the culture that we left, where the institution gets to decide on what terms we get to receive information and how it is that we're supposed to process it. I want to see a change in this culture, and I think I'm right. I'm certain I'm right here. I'm certain that people on the other side of this are wrong, and I don't think they have bad intentions, and I don't think they're stupid, but I think you can't. Some people just don't have imagination, and they can maybe imagine some things, but man, they cannot imagine this. It is only ever a bad thing if you allow populism to take over, because people. They're dealing with people all the time who are unhinged and writing them and being nasty. Why should they believe that if we just stop hiding all the information and let everybody know everything, that won't just multiply all the misery? And I think there are always going to be crazy bad people in the mix, and you just kick them out, I think that's one of the strengths of Methodism, and I'm going to write about that on my Substack in a few weeks. But I think sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think more knowledge always helps the equation. It helps people understand nuance and complication. Like in this particular situation, if each person had an hour-long interview with me, I guarantee we would figure out what school of thought they're a part of in the GMC, because we have many. We would figure out what vision they have for the future of the Global Methodist Church, how much they value charismatic stuff, how much they value liturgy, how much they value church growth, how much they value biblical purity and faithfulness. These are all things that you can write a one-liner, or heck, they might do like a compilation video where each of them gets to answer like questions they saw beforehand, and they get to like script their answers. That's not going to tell you what you want to know about a candidate. You want to see them think on their feet. You want to see them relate to somebody that you trust and that can think straight. When people are saying we can't reproduce this politicking that we saw in the UMC, yeah, absolutely. And if somebody comes on and they look and sound like a politician, then that's not going to be received well. And I can't help but wonder if that is what they're afraid of, that they're okay with the denomination making them all look like candidates. But whenever it comes to actually dealing with somebody that doesn't hold the same loyalties and is after just kind of truth, that they worry that people will see something that they don't like. In which case, that's great. John Wesley, whenever they started the class meeting, it was originally to collect funds that were needed for building a prayer house. And the class leaders said, we'll go out to the houses and we'll collect the money from the people directly. And they did, and they came back and they said, we discovered them doing all kinds of stuff. One guy was drunk in the middle of the day. One guy was fighting with his wife. One guy was skipping out from work. And they said, we can't do this. This makes them look bad. And John Wesley says, we have to do this. We have to expose the people in our midst that we think are legit, but they're actually something else. I think partly what is being exposed is there are people in the GMC who believe in fairy tales. And what I mean by that is they believe that we left Sodom and Gomorrah behind. They were the bad people. We're the good ones now. And we don't have corrupt bishops. We're not going to have any bad actors who abuse their role. We're not going to have people who get confused about the mission and lead us astray. Oh, that couldn't happen now. That is a dummy way of thinking. That is dumb way of thinking. There were wonderful people with great intentions in the United Methodist Church. And we have those in the GMC. The difference between us and them is not going to be they're the bad ones and we're the good ones. The difference between us and them is going to be, hopefully, that we have transparency so that we expose bad actors and remove them quickly with accountability, and that we require them to be vulnerable with us if they're going to be in leadership. To my mind, this is a no-brainer, but it is not a no-brainer for people on the TLC, people in leadership, and they're very concerned already. I'm saying this, I'm not going to tell you who I've been talking to. I don't think that's helpful, but I've talked to people on the inside, and I know and like a lot of people on the inside that I trust, that just say, the way we're looking at it, it's a lose-lose scenario. We've already released this information, and then the way that we release more information, we just don't want to show. We don't want to recreate this dynamic of politicking. And everybody is on the same page. Nobody wants to see politicking. No, but to my mind, the biggest threat is these guys behind the scenes coming away. Okay, are you going to vote for me? Okay, can you get so-and-so to vote for me? Okay, whenever it comes to the Florida General Conference, can you make sure that this person gets heard? Can you make sure that this is the language and the thing in writing that comes before? There's nothing keeping any of them from doing that. And that's the stuff that stacks the deck and does this nasty politicking behind the scenes. That's the threat. The threat of having them be put on camera and say what they believe, that is not a threat to this dynamic of politics. The thing that's a threat is, I got myself confused. The thing I'm trying to say is the real threat to the Global Methodist Church is controlling all this behind the scenes and controlling information and determining what people hear and how. I think that is enemy number one. And I don't care very much about the structure we create at the convening conference. I care about the culture that we collaboratively create. And I think that's what we're doing here. That's why I started what I did. For years, I believed that, the GMC, even before it was a GMC, I just thought it's going to potentially be great if we can have accountability and we can have transparency. If we don't have these things, then I think even the best system in the world can't protect us from what the evil one does, because the devil, he gets in those crevices and he needles in and he corrupts stuff. And whenever we have this fairy tale thinking, oh, we can't be corrupted, we're the good ones, we left the bad ones, when we have this confidence in our structures, we're not learning our lessons. And that's why I did my Bitter Medicine series so long ago. It is our fault that things fell apart in the UMC. If things fall apart in the GMC, it's going to be our fault again. We need to learn the lessons ahead of us or behind us so that we implement rightly what should be done now. And I think I'm doing my part. And it really upsets me, to be honest with you, after all the work that I've done, and I think I deserve the street cred at this point, that I'm not trusted by the institution to foster healthy, collaborative conversations. Even if they don't 100% trust me, they could have still called me and said, hey, we know you're wanting to do this. Here's our anxieties. Let's talk about ways that we can maybe utilize you and not be so anxious about you promoting this sort of thing. Or I got nothing back. Instead, there was all these emails back and forth. Oh, Jeffrey's reaching out. He wants to do this. Okay. We'll put out an email. Just tell him not to tell and refer him to us. And then we'll just say this. I don't want to do things that way. I don't think many people actually want to do things this way. I think most people are ready for something new. And hear me, I'm not saying that I need to be like some fourth pillar of the GMC and everybody has to talk to me and give me what I want. I think it's everybody's prerogative not to talk to me, and I don't want to pressure people. I just want to be an invitation. But then when people don't want to talk to me, I want other people to see that and care, and say, why don't they want to talk? Okay, is Jeffrey just a jerk? Okay, who's someone else they can talk to? But, do they just not want to be available and accountable on a certain level. Okay, well, I don't like that. I don't want to vote for this person if that's who they are. I think that's the sort of thing that matters at this point. And if that is not even allowed to be a factor in this, then I think you potentially get people in the role of bishop who they look good because that's how they've been presented, but they've never actually had to prove their worth or their character in front of the whole denomination. They've done it maybe in a local ministry setting where we know that pastors also stack the deck in their favor a lot of times there. I just think if we really want to see the GMC do well, then we're going to have to require that people who lead at the top are available to the body and transparent. And I think I've made the case pretty effectively. I think I've shown the benefits of transparency over the last year and a half that I've been doing this. And so, I talked to a couple people, said, well, and let me remind you, as I made this post, there wasn't any character assassination or insinuation. There was just, here's what's happened. But a lot of people, a couple people said, just let it go. Maybe it'll get worked out. But to my mind, if I don't draw this line clearly for other people to see, then it's a foregone conclusion that the GMC is not going to do well. If there have already been a couple things where I'm just like, I don't really like that, but I'm not going to say anything. And here, hypothetically, I mean, it could still not go my way on this, and maybe it all works out. But I'm just saying, if we're setting the culture now, then the more ingrained things get this way, the harder it's going to be to change. So I just think it's better to push hard now rather than later. I wanted to look at this article where they're talking about the connectional council. Yeah, I'll bring that up right now. Here's why it matters. We're about to be nominating new people to be in authority in the Global Methodist Church. So here is an article written a couple days ago by Keith Boyette. Advanced GM Church's Mission, nominations for connectional commissions due August 6th. A core value of the GMC is to reduce the institutional footprint of the general church. Such an approach ensures that more financial resources remain at the congregational level, enabling local churches to respond to ministry needs in their mission fields. Additionally, members of local churches are encouraged to have greater ownership and involvement in the ministry and mission of the church globally. Since late March 2020, when the idea of the GMC was first conceived, the nascent denomination has been governed by a TLC. TLC has stewarded the development of the church during its transitional period, and it will continue its role through the end of the year. However, during our convening conference, the denomination will adopt an entirely new general church organization to become effective at the start of next year. Legislation proposed by TLC would create a connectional council to be the chief missional and administrative body between the general church's general conferences, general church staff serving under the leadership of the connectional operations officer, Mike Schaefer. So a lot of people are talking like there's going to be this completely new structure. I don't see it that way. I'm sure there's going to be some differences, but Mike Schaefer is going to be replacing Keith Boyette. The connectional council is going to replace the TLC. It's going to be very similar dynamics from there. And the people that we put on the connectional council very much determine the culture of the body. And so right now is the time to be thinking on who are the people who hold the values of transparency that we want to lift for consideration. The deadline has not passed yet. Now is the time. I'll try and put a link to this later whenever I post this. There are particulars about this. August 6th is the deadline, so we've got a couple weeks, but we get the leadership that we get, and if we value one thing or another, that's what we get. I'm saying the primary value should be transparency. Not primary. Primary should be biblical faithfulness, but transparency should be number 2, number 3. I don't know. I'm not going to rank these things. It's super important. I would say it's non-negotiable. So right now, I wanted to issue a call broadly. If you know people who are administratively capable, biblically faithful, I should have reversed that order, and who have a similar view of transparency to what I've been talking about here, I think that is what's needed, and I would strongly urge you to put them up for consideration for this connectional council. I think, our current connectional council, they're not bad folks. We got good crew on there, but it's worth noting. So Keith is stepping down. That guy's running for bishop. That lady's United Methodist. I'm sure she's wonderful. Running for bishop. I don't know a couple of them. She's Free Methodist, I think, not Global Methodist. I don't know why that's coming up. I did an interview with him last week. That was really nice, and I've interviewed him. He's really great. I like him. I don't know a couple of these others. Anyway, that's to say, we need new leadership, and it'll be great to have new leadership, but it'll be important that they share the values that are super important. And so I want to be optimistic, but that depends upon the constituency of the GMC getting involved. And so I guess I would close this before I turn to comments now, just asking you to pray for the GMC. I hope it's clear to everybody who listens to this. I'm a fan of the GMC. I want it to do well. I clearly think something's at stake with this, and I don't want to make any enemies, but I realize highlighting these things and showing that I think that this is bad is going to make enemies of people who disagree with me. I wish we could separate people from ideas. I think that's another thing that was not helpful in the United Methodist Church. Oh, you're against homosexuality. Well, you hate my gay son. It's certainly less dramatic than that. But you don't like the way that we control information. Well, you must hate us. No, I don't hate anybody over there. I think they have great intentions. I just think they're wrong about this. And so I would just urge you guys to foster this conversation where you are in your local church, because transparency has a lot to do with how well the local church functions. But also, if you have connections in the structure of the GMC, just to let them know, hey, I just want to make sure this is the kind of GMC I'm hoping that we have in the future, and I would really like it if you could advocate for this kind of culture among the people in leadership. Having those kind of conversations will go a long way. And then if you know of anybody to nominate to this connectional council, then going ahead and being active on that, and going ahead and praying for that next generation of leadership that will hopefully be more amenable to efforts like Plain Spoken. I don't think I have to be the only one in the GMC doing this. In fact, other people do very similar stuff that they should have access as well if people want to talk to them. So